I hope you have your scripture journals with you tonight. We're going to be at Psalm 19. The clicker job on Psalm nights is a now coveted position because you have a table where you can spread out and write all this stuff. Kevin was saying that last week. It's nice to be able to do that. And Tyler said he's going to do it tonight too. So Psalm 19. Psalm 19 will be a familiar psalm to a lot of you, I'm sure. And there's a reason why it's going to be a familiar psalm. A lot of people, the different commentaries that I have, say this kind of stuff about Psalm 19. And it won't take you very long to get a sense of, okay, we're about to step into maybe one of the most beautiful of all the Psalms. C.S. Lewis said this: I take this to be the greatest poem in the Psalter and one of the greatest lyrics in the world. That's pretty high praise, getting ready to step into Psalm 19. This is one of my commentaries, Van Gemeren. This psalm reflects more than any other the beauty and splendor of the Hebrew poetry found in the Psalter. And I think that you'll see that tonight too, is just, I have something in mind that I would like to accomplish. And so we're not going to spend time digging into all of the different poetry features that you can find. But let me just tell you this. The longer you look, the more there is to see. And so just know that, and I hope that you will spend some time looking at it. Here was another one. This is from an author named, I don't know if it's Craigie or Craigie. I think it's Craigie is his last name. This Psalm 19 combines the most beautiful poetry with some of the most profound biblical theology. So anyway, I just want you to know that as we step into Psalm 19 tonight, this one is high on the list of great psalms. So let's do this. I want to read the first 6 verses. And I want to start by telling you something. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to tell you this at the start or if I wanted to wait till the end to tell you this. But I think it will be better for you to know it at the start. There's 3 sections in this psalm. And that's how we're going to look at it. Section 1, Section 2, and Section 3. And Section 1 is famous. You'll recognize the words, the heavens declare the glory of God. They proclaim his handiwork. And then the second section, the law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. We sing that song about Psalm 19. You'll recognize that section too. And those sections are so beautiful and perfect in their own ways that you might be tempted to get caught up in those sections and think that this poem, that Psalm 19, is about these 2 sections, but it's not. The first 2 sections are just illustrations that help us to understand the third section and what we're really saying. That's kind of new to me. I'm not sure that I've seen that before up to this point. And so as we read through it, get lost in the text where we are, but also just remember, we're just illustrating the real point is the thing that I would like for you to think about. So let's read it. Psalm 19, verses 1 through 6. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. Day to day pours out speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them he has set a tent for the sun, which comes out like a bridegroom leaving his chamber, and like a strong man runs its course with joy. Its rising is from the end of the heavens, and its circuit to the end of them, and there is nothing hidden from its heat. Okay, so did you see this? The title? I'm trying as I go through to give a title. What I think, it's only my opinion, take it or leave it, but what I think is the best possible title I can come up with for the psalm that we're on right now. I'm not convinced that I think this is the best title for this psalm. I would like some input afterwards, like maybe you can come up with something better. But do you notice that my title is Nature's Speech, God's Speech, and My Speech? So the thing that I want you to notice, first of all, in verses 1 through 6, is all of the speech language. There's speaking that's happening. The heavens declare, that's our word, declare the glory of God. The sky above proclaims his handiwork. You proclaim with your mouth. You declare with your mouth. There's speech. Day to day in verse 2 pours out speech. There's actually the word speech. And I didn't underline this one, but I think I'm going to, because I think that this is a part of speech, and it fits in with the speech language. It says in the second part of verse 2, night to night reveals knowledge. How do you reveal knowledge? By talking to somebody, by speaking and saying. So we're looking at speech. Now verses 3 and 4 go together in terms of speech. Verse 3, there is no speech, nor are there words whose voice is not heard. And so the idea is, the sky is not really speaking. He tells you the obvious. There's no speech, there's no voice. But then when you look at verse 4, it says, their voice. Wait, I thought you said that there wasn't a voice. It's poetry. Their voice goes out through all the world, and their words to the end of the world. And so I would like to see over and over again that this whole section is about speech, declare, proclaim. Speech reveals knowledge, the voice and the words that are coming from nature. Just pay special attention to that because, well, you know what? I think it's easier to learn if you know where this is going. Look at verse 14. Verse 14 ends with, I think, the real request. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. So we're looking, what does nature do? Nature speaks all of these things about God, about his glory, about his handiwork. I would treat, this is a really unfortunate verse division. I wish that verse 5, look at verse 1, A, B, 2 lines. Verse 2, A, B, 2 lines. Verse 3, A, B, 2 lines. Verse 4, it should be A, B, 2 lines. And then verse 5 should start in the third line of verse 4. In them he set a tent for the sun. That's where verse 5 should start. And you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So verses 5 and 6 are basically this. The heavens declare the glory of God and proclaim his handiwork. And then this last section here of verses 5 and 6 is, for example, I actually wrote that in my Bible. For example, let me give you an example of that. And then he set a tent for the sun. So you look up at the sky, and there's a big tent that the sun lives inside of. And here is the sun. The sun comes out of his house in the morning, and he comes out, it says this, it says, from the end to the end. It comes out on one side over here, from the end of the heavens, and he goes all the way across to the end of them. And the idea is there's nothing hidden from its heat. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the sun, in going from the end of the earth to the end of the earth, is declaring to all people. It touches all things in all times and all places. That's the speech, natural revelation. That's what you call this. I think I think that we should probably stop here for 1 second and talk about this natural revelation. Natural revelation is, there's two kinds of revelation. There's special revelation, which is this. God spoke it to you and said, hey, here's my word. I want to tell you something. But then there's natural revelation. And natural revelation is, you look outside, you look at the universe, you look at nature, you look at everything that God has created, and you say to yourself, there has to be a creator behind this. Now, natural revelation is limited, because I can't know anything about him or what he wants, but I can know that there is a creator, and I can know that he's all-powerful and glorious. You can see a couple examples in the New Testament of natural revelation. So Romans chapter 1, we talked about this just a little bit this morning. God gave the law of Moses to the Jewish people, and that's this special revelation. But there are still some things that all people, whether you're a Jew and you have the law of Moses or not, there are still some things that all people should just know. So chapter 1 of Romans in verse 19, for what can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. His invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made. And so, the Gentiles are without excuse. You should be able to look at the world, and if you don't know anything else about God, just say, somebody designed this and made it. And he must be awfully powerful, and he must be awfully glorious to have done such a thing. That's natural revelation. And so, I think that that's probably going to be enough for this first section, just to say the first 6 verses are natural revelation. God, nature, let's say nature speaking about the glory of God. Okay. The second section. I want to show you something before we get started on this. The second section is going to move from natural revelation about nature and the universe to special revelation and the words that God has spoken. And there is an embedded piece of awesomeness in the text that I hope that you see about this. In verse 1, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God. That word God is just, God is what he is. He is God. And I'm not saying that there are many gods, but that's what some people would say. You know, he's a God. He is God. But in verse 7, we're going to move from the general into the specific. He is not just God who created all things. He is Yahweh. And in your Bible, you see that as Lord. And guess what? There's 7 of them. There's one El, God, in the natural revelation section. In the special revelation section, where we're going to get more specific, we have Yahweh. And so listen to this. The law of the Lord, of Yahweh. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. Blue in my Bible means pay attention to words. That's what we're doing right now. We're paying attention to a word. God, Lord, 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 Lord. Verse 8, the precepts of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The rules of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. And then the very end of the psalm is number 7. O Lord, Yahweh, be my rock and my redeemer. So you have 7 Yahwehs in there, which is kind of neat with the natural revelation, limited knowledge, he's God. Special revelation, though, he's Yahweh. And we know specifically who he is. And there's 7 of them. So, do I have this one? Yeah, again, pay attention to the speech. It's what he has spoken. It's what he said. So in verse 7, the law of the Lord is perfect. You speak the law. The testimony. Testimony is words that are spoken. Precepts in verse 8. Commandment. Rules in verse 9. Just like the heavens declare and proclaim and speak the glory of God in natural revelation, Yahweh in special revelation has given us the law and the testimony and precepts and commandments and rules. He has spoken to us specifically. That's going to be this. Special revelation is detailed knowledge. You don't just look out the window and say, oh, hey, there must be a God. No. He spoke it and he said, this is who I am and this is what I want from you. That's detailed and specific. And so that's the thing that you would call special revelation on that. I will just say this real quick. This speech in special revelation is supposed to change our lives. It's supposed to have a very personal impact on the way that we live and what we do, how we think. If you look back at verses 1 through 6 in natural revelation, what is the thing that's happening? The heavens are declaring the glory of God, and then maybe again in verse 2, night to night reveals knowledge that there is a God, but I can't really know much else beyond that. But look at verse 7. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. It speaks to me in my soul and myself. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. It's giving me more than just knowledge that there is a God. It's telling me what he wants. The precepts of the Lord rejoice the heart. This one especially in verse 8. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. I am starting to understand clearly and see. It's specific in nature, not general. And the end of this poem, well, the end of this section anyway, after talking about the special revelation of God, the law, the testimony, the precepts, all of these things, he says in verse 10, more to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold. And so it's this. There's gold, but then there's fine gold. And what I want is to desire the law of God, not as much as gold, not as much as fine gold, more than fine gold. And then the next thing is the same thing. Sweeter also than honey, but not just honey, the sweet, fresh drippings of the honeycomb. I want to desire this special revelation of God even more than that. And that one speaks to me because I love honey. Verse 11, here's the reason why. Moreover, by them is your servant warned. In keeping them, there is good reward. So I'm glad. I'm glad to have this special revelation of God because they warn me and they keep me inside the lines on the way to great reward. I think I'll skip this part, like we won't actually dig into this. But I do want to at least tell you something about this in verse 10. It says, more to be desired are they than gold. That word desired is the same word from the 7th command. I think it's the 7th command. Maybe 9th. No, it's the 10th command. The 10th command, not coveting. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. That word covet is the same word here used in verse 10. I covet the law of the Lord. That's what it said. More to be coveted are they. All of these words of God. More to be desired are they than gold, even much fine gold, sweeter also than honey, and the drippings of the honeycomb. really, really want it. That's the idea expressed in this psalm. Okay, so I'm skipping a lot of the poetic stuff. There's a lot of neat features built in here. I'm going to skip a lot of that because I want to get to what I think is the main point of the psalm. And that's going to be in this third last section, verses 12, 13, and 14. Let's just read it one verse at a time. Who can discern his errors? That's a question. Who knows? Who can discern his errors? Request number 1. There are 3 requests in this section. Number 1, declare me innocent from hidden faults. Can you see how that request matches the first 6 verses about natural revelation and general knowledge? And there's some things that I can know about God, but not really anything specific. I can know that He created, and I can know that He's glorious and powerful, but I can't, it's limited. And I can't really know what He wants from me. And so this first section is saying, God, who can know His errors? And this is my request. Request number 1, declare me innocent from hidden faults. Please forgive me and don't hold against me the things that I've done in my life that I just don't know about. Have you ever prayed that prayer? I know myself well enough to know that there is a plenty long enough list of mistakes that I know good and well, the things that I've done wrong that I shouldn't have done. But I can't even imagine what the list looks like of sins that I've committed or thoughts that I've thought or words that I've said that I just don't even know. Like I don't even know all of the things that I've done. And in that category of general revelation of it's limited, there's just some stuff. The request is, declare me innocent from hidden faults. I'm sorry for the things that I did that I didn't know. But now look at the second request in verse 13. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sin. Those things that I do know that are wrong. See how that matches with 7 through 11 with the next section there? There's some things I don't know. I'm sorry about that. Please don't hold that against me. But those things that I do know in special revelation, please keep me back from those. There's a couple things. The NET, my Bible, the ESV says presumptuous sins. The NET says flagrant sins. Keep me back from flagrant sins. Or the NIV says willful sins. I know that it's wrong, and I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. Keep me back from that stuff. The New International Reader's Version says, keep me also from the sins that I want to commit. That matches with special revelation. I know that it's wrong, but sometimes I just go ahead and do it anyway. And so request number 2 is, please keep me from that. Read the whole thing. Keep back your servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then I shall be blameless and innocent of great transgression. So request number 1 is illustrated in the first section, a natural revelation. Request number 2 is illustrated in the second section, special revelation. And then the conclusion of this psalm in verse 14, you remember how we were paying attention to words and speech? Declare, proclaim, speech, reveals knowledge, voice, words, law, testimony, precepts, commandments, rules. Speech has been the major theme throughout this entire psalm. And so you come to verse 14, I already told you. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Here's one thought that I have, and I don't know if this is right. I'm just going to throw this out, and you can discuss, talk amongst yourselves about this. I don't know how this would work exactly, but I kind of am tempted to think, let the words of my mouth should probably go with verses 1 through 6. The heavens declare, you thinking the same thing. Let the words of my mouth, and then the meditation of my heart should go with the second section about the law of the Lord, reviving the soul, the testimony of the Lord, making wise the simple, the precepts of the Lord, rejoicing the heart. Let the meditation of my heart. But I think that one's maybe a little bit too big of a stretch for me to say with certainty. I don't know that I can do that one for sure. But what I would do for 100% sure is circle and highlight and do something with the word my. Because that's what I want to see in this psalm. Verses 1 through 6, the words of the heavens declare the glory of God. Verses 7 through 11, the words of God keep us from sin. And then verse 14, I want to see this. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Let me say two things. Oh, let me go back to this one. Let me say two things and then I'll be done. As we go through each of these psalms, I always want to point you to where the psalms are referred to in the New Testament. You have one of those with Psalm 19. It happens in verse 4. Let's read verses 3 and 4 together, talking about the glory of God that's proclaimed in all of the universe. It says, there's no speech, there are no words, whose voice is not heard. And then this is quoted in the New Testament. Their voice goes out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. That's quoted in Romans chapter 10 and verse 18. And the reference is to the gospel and how the gospel has gone out to the ends of the earth, to the whole world. And so you can kind of see why Paul would be attracted to that verse for that. Okay, that's one. I said there were two things. The second thing, before we actually sing this psalm, is I have intended to have a final slide for each one of these psalms to say, how is my prayer specifically going to be different next week because of this psalm? And I think the heading for the last slide said something like, how am I going to be changed, or something like that. I don't remember what I wrote. But I don't need a final slide. The main point of this psalm is how we're going to be changed next week. This is going to be the emphasis. If we're going to take something from this psalm, we've got something in this psalm that we've not seen in any of the psalms up to this point yet. So this is the way that our prayer can be different in the coming week. God, I am sorry for those sins that I've committed that I did unintentionally and that I don't even know about. Please don't hold me guilty for those sins. And also, those sins that I do know about, first of all, forgive me for them. But the request of this psalm is, keep me from them. Help me to stand strong and to not, what is the language here? Be dominated by them. Let them not have dominion over me. Help me to not commit sin and make mistakes that I know flagrantly are just obviously wrong. Help me to not make those mistakes. And so declare me innocent from things that I didn't know about. Keep me from presumptuous sins. And then finally, in the same way that the heavens speak and the law speaks, let the words of my mouth speak to the glory of God. And let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be about the special revelation of God and His Word and what He said for us in our lives and also to the whole world. Those are three things that we can pray this week. And zoom in on, really think about that and pray specifically about our sin and keeping us from sin. Okay, now we're going to sing it. This is Psalm 19. The words are changed a little bit, and I hope that you'll remember as we go through. It's set to This Is My Father's World, which also sounds like the theme song from Lord of the Rings to me. Probably didn't need to say that part. But if we're going to talk about the heavens declaring the glory of God, that's kind of what the Lord of the Rings does. Make sure that you hear as you sing Psalm 19, this is my Father's world. Natural revelation and how nature sings about the glory of God. Special revelation and how God has spoken his word to us. And then our final 3 requests at the end of the song. If there's something that you need from us or if we can pray for you, come forward now during this song as we stand and sing the invitation song.